nonsense, the Censor, with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, friends, family, allies, and enemies. I'm your host, DC Radical One. You have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. Also, you can check us out at YouTube.com, which is an uncensored free speech platform. Of course, censorship is one of the things we'll be talking about tonight. It is the thing we'll be talking about tonight. In fact, censorship of the internet variety. This is a show I should have done yesterday, but I fell down the rabbit hole and found more information. And by the time I looked up, it was just too late, to do the show. So we're here tonight. We don't do a lot of Fridays. I'm not sure how big of an audience we'll have, so we'll just move forward from there. I greet the few that have shown up in the chat so far. BB4ODA to Sister Simone, BB4ODA to Asafo. BB to me to Asafo. BB4ODA, brother, you got ripped off. BB4ODA to brother RBG. And hopefully some more people will come in shortly. In fact, while I'm waiting, I'm gonna do some behind the scenes business. Brother, you got ripped off, give me a sound check, please. Cause I'm gonna be honest, this really could be a lecture, but I really kind of want to be off by 9:30 because think like somehow playoff baseball season, it snuck up on me, and I'm just, even though my favorite team already lost, but it is a game of interest on tonight while I'm trying to find something I'm looking for. So anyway, let me get started. Oh, no, first of all, first announcement. As y'all know, tomorrow, or you should know anyway. I got a couple of announcements. Anyway, let me start with Brother Jenny. Tomorrow, Brother Jenny will be, it's in Springfield, Illinois, on his African Survival in 21st Century tour. So, as I look up that information to give it to you all, even though I've said it previously, BB4ODA and Straight Black Pride to Brother Kevin. Tomorrow, Saturday, October 12th, 2 p.m. Central Time, 2 to 6 at the Ruby Community Center, just located at 1520 East Washington Street, Springfield, Illinois, 62703. Our brother, Irritated Jenny, will be there as part of his African Survival in the 21st Century tour. Of course, this will not be live streamed, and sad to say, I am not there in Springfield. So I ain't even asked the brother, is he filming? He may not even film this event. It's crazy, it didn't even occur to me. Like, I've talked to him in the last few days, but I didn't even bother to ask. Like, you know what I'm saying? It ain't occurred to me. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. So, but that's what's going on with that. And so I will talk to him. I probably will talk to him Sunday, and so I'll come on. In fact, yeah, I'll come on Sunday for another episode of The Center, and tomorrow and do a special Saturday episode of SBL Talk. Then we'll go from there. So that's that. And I have put that up in the community tab of the channel, and it is up on my Instagram, and I believe it's up on my threads as well. So if you need that information, you need visual documentation. If you're in that area, you can get that from those sources. Also, got a channel announcement before I get started. We now have open memberships to the channel, and it's in 3 different tiers. Funny but true story. As I was setting it up, and I'll be adding more stuff to it, like there'll be more perks and whatnot, special emojis and stuff like that. So they rejected my initial setup, right? And I'm trying to figure out why. I'm like, is it the money? Is it the emojis? Is it, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So the one of the tiers was Watoto, which is I believe the Kiswahili for children, and they rejected that. YouTube rejected that as like, I forgot what they put, but it was something like you can't use derogatory language or something of that effect, like something off the wall. And I was just like, they know more about Swahili than I do. You know what I'm saying? So I was, I changed the name of that tier. But I just found that interesting that I guess it was the AI. I don't know, but it just goes to show that literally, if you leave things in the hands of AI, and I'm gonna blame the AI. I'm not gonna blame random YouTube person, right? I'm gonna blame the AI. If you leave the things in the hands of AI, because AI is limited to the knowledge of the people that greetings to reconciliation. If you leave things in the hands of AI is limited to the people that interact with it and the sources of information it has. So you never know what you get. So I just found it interesting. Because we are going to okay, all right, greetings to you. We're gonna see, how AI can get out of hand. And that was just an example. So tonight's discussion, man, is about, the question is, why are these so-called liberals, man, who are in favor of everything, like all types of stuff, you know what I'm saying, that some things we agree with, most things we don't. Why are they so much in charge? So much in favor of censorship of the internet all of a sudden, right? And so I got a few clips that's going to show why I'm saying all of a sudden, and how some of them have changed. Now, some of them haven't, right? And I'm talking about big name people, former First Lady and Secretary of State and New York Senator Hillary Clinton. She made some statements recently that were like, oh, hey, really? Bill Gates was Bill Gatesing. He's always trying to figure out how to regulate and take over something. I'm gonna just be honest, man. How the vast majority of the world just stands around and watches Bill Gates run roughshod over everything and just go buck wild, implementing his zany ideas like some type of Batman villain. It's just, someone in the future is going to look back in the past and think to themselves, why they let that happen? Right? Look, what can I say about Bill Gates without that will allow this to actually be fully monetized? All right, well, I can't think of that, so we're just gonna move forward. That's all. all I'm gonna say is Bill Gates is like a real life Batman villain. He's like, I don't even know actually Batman has this type of villain, because I don't think Batman has a villain that's as rich as him and wants to control the world. Like if Bill Gates was a Batman villain, he would be like the controller. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's in his lab thinking up stuff and sending out people to do stuff. And Batman's like, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. But who has enough money to implement this across the world? You know, that Batman would have to do some investigating to figure out, you know, the controller is at it again, right? I mean, the controller would make the Joker look like, you know, easy work, because you know the Joker's gonna do his stuff in was it Gotham City or whatever. But Batman, I mean the controller, you never know where he's gonna show up. You know, he's over there. He's in Africa doing something. He's in the US doing something. He's over at the Davros meeting giving them ideas. You know what I mean? You never know where the controller is, man. So when you say he's like Vandal Savage, nah, I hope not. Brothers, you got ripped off, say it's like he's like Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage is immortal, right? Am I wrong? Yeah, man. Hopefully he's not like Vandal Savage. That's bad. That's bad. So anyway, man, you know, now that we're going off on our comic book tangent, I want to start with the basics. You know, I want to start with something that people just forget exists. The First Amendment. Let us start with the First Amendment. And I'm starting with the First Amendment for a reason. Because, as I've said previously, it's under assault, right? So let's get started. It says Congress, Amendment 1, right? This is part of the United States Constitution. This is the first one after they made up the Constitution, said, hey, we're going to start a new government. This land that we're on, we're going to form a new nation. And, you know, we figured out how we're going to do it with the Congress and the Senate and the president and all that stuff. Said, all right, now let's buckle down and see what rights that we definitely want to have. The first thing they said is this: Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging, which means limiting, the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Now let's go back to the part after religion, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, right? In the modern context, the press has now evolved into social media. The press most people, being completely honest, get their news. Most people let's say under 50, right? Let's say that most people under 50 get their news via social media. If most people get their news via social media has, in essence, become the press in the modern context, right? So at that point, when you start saying that you're going to put limitations on social media, you're saying you're going to put limitations on the press, right? So I just wanted to bring that up because I want to put it in a context so people can easily understand. So now, I'm trying to think, where do I really want to start? You know what? Let's start with Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton was at the museum in January 2010, right? This U.S. Department Secretary of State, her remarks on internet internet freedom. So you can go to state.gov and look this up, right? It's there. In this, before they to raw item. In this speech, she talks about internet freedom, and she goes on and on and on, and we're going to see a little bit of it. But the reason I'm pointing this out is because I want to show the contradiction between what she was saying then and what she is saying now, right? And it's something interesting, at least to me, it was interesting. I found it ironic. This speech was given at the museum. The museum is no longer in operation. It's defunct. It's out of business, right? If you're in Washington D.C. and you want to come to the tourist area where all the museums and stuff is, the Smithsonian, really what they call the Smithsonian complex. The museum is I think 2 or 3 blocks north of that area. And I had forgotten that they had closed it. So it's defunct. Now, the museum was a museum dedicated to, to journalism and the free speech. Think about that. A museum dedicated to journalism and free speech went out of business in Washington, D.C. Right? You know what I'm saying? Just there's some symbolism here that has gone over people's heads, and most if you're not in this area, you wouldn't even know anything about it, right? If you're not in America, you wouldn't know anything about it. But it's very symbolic. It's a very symbolic happening that she had a speech on internet freedom at that place, and now that place is defunct, and now she's saying the opposite, right? So what we're gonna do is, instead of going through this whole speech, which I don't want to do and nobody wants me to do, I'm gonna just start off with a clip of what she was saying in what was that, in 2010. So y'all know how we do. We pause the music and we load the clip.
Span, we have taken significant strides to translate the promise of these technologies into results that make a difference. But there is still so much more to be done. And as we work together with the private sector and foreign governments to deploy the tools of 21st century statecraft, we have to remember our shared responsibility to safeguard the freedoms that I've talked about today. We feel strongly that principles like information freedom aren't just good policy, not just somehow connected to our national values, but they are universal, and they're also good for business. To use market terminology, a publicly listed company in Tunisia or Vietnam that operates in an environment of censorship will always trade at a discount relative to an identical firm in a free society. If corporate decision makers don't have access to global sources of news and information, investors will have less confidence in their decisions over the long term. Countries that censor news and information must recognize that, from an economic standpoint, there is no distinction between censoring political speech and commercial speech. If businesses in your nations are denied access to either type of information, it will inevitably impact on growth. Increasingly, U.S. companies are making the issue of internet and information freedom a greater consideration in their business decisions. I hope that their competitors and foreign governments will pay close attention to this trend. The most recent situation involving Google has attracted a great deal of interest, and we look to the Chinese authorities to conduct a thorough review of the cyber intrusions that led Google to make its announcement. And we also look for that investigation and its results to be transparent. The internet has already been a source of tremendous progress in China, and it is fabulous. There are so many people in China now online. but countries that restrict free access to information or violate the basic rights of internet users risk walling themselves off from the progress of the next century. Now, the United States and China have different views on this issue, and we intend to address those differences candidly and consistently in the context of our positive, cooperative, and comprehensive relationship. Now, ultimately, this issue isn't just about information freedom. It is about what kind of world we want and what kind of world we will inhabit. It's about whether we live on a planet with one internet, one global community, and a common body of knowledge that benefits and unites us all, or a fragmented planet in which access to information and opportunity is dependent on where you live and the whims of censors.
Y'all heard that, right? Now, does that sound like somebody that is pro censorship or against censorship? Right? Now she's talking about, hey man, China, y'all got to get with it. You can't be against censorship. And she's talking about censorship. Internet censorship is gonna limit people's opportunity and their marketability and all these things, right? But there's something else she said too, talking about whether the world will have one set of information or not. And when I listened to that, I was like, even while she's talking against censorship, she's still talking in the language of one world government long before I had put her, into that bag, the whole WEF bag. So I found that clip interesting. And the reason I found it interesting is because it is a large portion of that section of her speech, which was about an hour long, is almost directly contradictory to what she's saying today. Now, I understand over a span of 14 years that a person can change their mind. You can get new information and things like that. But still, to directly and completely change your ideology and philosophy on a subject completely is interesting, especially when you're condemning people for doing things and then you're going to turn around and ask to do the exact same thing. So again, we just watched that clip. Now I'm gonna come back. We're gonna listen to Hillary Clinton in the modern context with another clip. Y'all know normally I don't do clips back to back, but hey, it is what it is. So yeah, let's just check out what the modern the modern Hillary Clinton has to say.
Should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave, platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
All right. So y'all saw that. Here is the big question. Why? Right? But first of all, hold up. My bad. No. First of all, let us look at. Do I have it up? What is Section 230? Let's look at that first, and then we get to the why. So, Section 230. This is from the Electronic Freedom Foundation. It says Section 230, 47 USC -230. The internet allows people everywhere to connect, share ideas, and advocate for change without needing immense resources or technical expertise. Our unprecedented ability to communicate online, on blogs, social media platforms, and educational and cultural platforms like Wikipedia and the Internet Archive is not an accident. Congress recognized that for user speech to thrive on the internet, it had to protect the services that power user speech. That's why the U.S. Congress passed a law, Section 330, originally part of the Communications Decency Act, that protects Americans' freedom of expression online by protecting the intermediaries we all rely on. It states, no provider or user of interactive computer services shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. Section 230 embodies the principle that we should all be responsible for our own actions and statements online, but generally not those of others. The law prevents most civil suits against users or services that are based on what others say. Congress passed this bipartisan legislation because it recognized that promoting more user speech online outweighed potential harms. When harmful speech takes place, it is the speaker who should be held responsible, not the service that hosts the speech. Section 230's protections are not absolute. It does not protect companies that violate federal criminal law. It does not protect companies that create illegal or harmful content, nor does Section 230 protect companies from intellectual property claims, right? Now, let's just stop right there for get to the second half of that. Here's the deal. If the United States government can remove this, or if people above the United States government can get the government to remove these protections, at that point, they can pressure companies to limit the speech of individuals that the government doesn't agree with. Now, we already know that the government has done this previously because we talked in a previous episode on censorship, right? That on censorship, that the Facebook founder, Zuckerberg, stated that the Biden administration had pressured him to limit the content of some discussion, I believe, during the pandemic. So pandemic-related information, right? If I remember correctly. That was the major thing. Now, I actually, of all the things I have, I don't have that loaded up. But we know, if you've been listening to me for a long time, for the last 4 years now, we know that a major part of the entire tabletop exercise dealing with the pandemic that took place before the pandemic, right? And I'm drawing a blank on the name of it for whatever reason right now, even though I've watched that video ad nauseum to the point where I've almost remembered the thing. Fighting against quote unquote disinformation was an aspect, and controlling the flow of information. Event 201, thank you, brother, was an aspect of Event 201. So this isn't new in the sense of like just happening now, but it is kind of weird that since that tabletop exercise, which is a WEF, with a WEF sponsored event, that more and more you see the Democrats pushing for various forms of censorship, even to the point of creating, in essence, a censorship board that everyone seems to have forgotten about. And my thing is, whenever something like that comes out and it gets fought against, don't make the mistake of thinking that it won't be brought back out. Just, you know what I'm saying? It'll have a different name, it'll be in a different form, it'll definitely have a different person in charge of it. And so I tell people, or I'm telling people, make no mistake, if Biden was for it and helped set it up, if Harris wins, it's coming back up. That censorship board is coming back up, right? In what form? I don't know, but it was put up under Homeland Security. And then when a congressman, actually a senator, and don't let me forget to post that, but when a senator asked, hey, who was in charge of this? Whose idea was this? And they brought the person up. This is before Congress. An official from Homeland Security, he basically kind of just blew him off. Like, yeah, we're not really going to tell you whose idea it was. Okay, well, at that point, if you don't want to tell Congress, which means the people who are supposed to be the representatives of the people, whose idea it is to bring up a censorship board, then we know the censorship board is a bad idea. Because all of a sudden, because good ideas, everybody want to claim them. Bad ideas, don't nobody know what happened. You know what I'm saying? That, like, generally, that's how it works in life. When it's a bad idea, but nobody knows nothing. What they say? A good idea has many fathers, but a bad idea is an orphan, or something to that effect. I forgot what the saying, but that is in essence the saying. So, yeah. So let us get back to this whole section 230. I don't know why I would keep wanting to call it 330, and then we will get into who else, because there's other people who are running around parroting in essence the same thing. So that's why I find it interesting, because when you start hearing things over and over from different people, you're like, it's time to start paying attention, right? Now, whoops, my bad. Now, it says the free and open internet as we know it couldn't exist without Section 230. Important court rulings on Section 230 have held that users and services cannot be sued for forwarding email, hosting online reviews, or sharing photos or videos that others find objectionable. And let me stop right here, because this is what's interesting, right? Not only do you have this going on a major scale, but something that's going on a minor scale. And again, I've seen it most amongst liberals, really extreme liberals, what the conservatives call blue-haired people. Y'all know how the conservatives are, right? But yeah, I'm gonna see a lot of people that fit that description. They're running around. They may not be calling for censorship on the governmental level, those people, but they're like trying to get people deplatformed that they disagree with, which I'm totally against. I'm gonna be honest. It may sound crazy. I'm 100% for free speech. Like, this is how much for free speech I am for. I want to know, like, if a Klansman wants to come on and say what he wants to say on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, I want him to have the right to do that for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is I want him to announce who he is. You know what I'm saying? Announce who you are, announce where you are, right? Announce your intentions so I can know. So I can either, one, avoid where you are, or if you so happen to be nearby, know that there's a threat nearby. I don't want you off in the woods in secret coming up with a plan that don't nobody know about. Nah, I don't want that. Right? Because the threat you don't know about is the bigger threat. And also, in general, I just believe in people's right to say what they say what they want to say. Now, Are there consequences to saying what you want to say? I'm from the city. I'm from DC. We understand. When you grew up in the time that I grew up in, you understand. Yeah, you can say that, but there are consequences to that speech. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I'm gonna say on it. So that's just the principles I believe in. It's not even an American thing, but maybe you could say because I was born in America, and you realize you're like, oh, okay, well, allegedly we have these rights. Might as well keep them in place as much as we can, because I remember talking to Brother Genie one time and he said, we don't think about it this way. We don't realize it, but we as in Black people in America, our exercise of free speech has changed the course of this country multiple times. And he said it, and I was just kind of like, you think about it, you're like, yeah. Like all the people that we revere, it was their voice that led to changes, right? Whether they made the ultimate sacrifice or not, it was still their voice that led to changes. The people that everyone talks about, like the Martin Luther Kings and Malcolm X's, the people that people don't talk about, like the Fannie Lou Hamers of the world, right? The Marcus Garvey's when he came here, and so forth and so on. We can name people ad nauseum, going all the way back to Frederick Douglass, right? So it's been a right that, if we're being honest, Black people in America have exercised as much as any group in America, and to positive effect as any group since the founders of the country had. Right? Like, even though that wasn't their intention, but they laid the tools on the ground. We picked them up and used them. So with that out the way, let me just go back to this discussion. Now, says Congress knew the sheer volume of the growing internet would make it impossible for services to review every user's speech. But Section 230 was passed in 1996. About 40 million people use the internet worldwide. Think about that. That's wow. That's amazing. By 2019, more than 4 billion people were online, with 3.5 billion of them using social media forms. In 1996, there were fewer than 300,000 websites. By 2017, 1.7 billion. Without Section 230's protections, many online intermediaries would intensively filter and censor user speech, while others may simply not host user content at all. This legal and policy framework allows countless niche websites, as well as big platforms like Amazon and Yelp, to host user reviews. It allows users to share photos and videos on big platforms like Facebook and on the smallest blogs. It allows users to share speech and opinions everywhere, from vast conversational forums like Twitter and Discord to the comment sections of the smallest newspapers and blogs. Congress wanted to encourage internet users to create and find communities. Section 230's text explains how Congress wanted to protect the internet's unique ability to provide quote unquote true diversity of political discourse. Let me stop right here. It's so interesting that in the modern time, there's a lot of talk about diversity, but it's funny because it's a person I heard say this first, somebody I don't agree with on anything politically, but when they said it, you kind of stop. You ever have somebody say something, you stop, you kind of think about it, and you're like, he's right, and he's never right. But they were like, yeah, that everybody talks about diversity, but when it comes to diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, diversity of opinion, that's when you get attacked, right? I just find it interesting that whoever wrote this talks about that being a focus in that time. The diverse communities have flourished online, providing us with political, educational, cultural, and entertainment services. Users, meanwhile, will have new ways to control the content they see. Section 230 allows for web operators, large and small, to moderate user speech and content as they see fit. This reinforces the First Amendment protections for publishers to decide which content they would distribute. Different approaches to moderating user speech allows users to find the spaces that they like and avoid places they don't. And then, again, let me stop right there. You know what? It's like a club. You want to go to the club, right? And I know nobody really does clubs anymore. But, you know, if you walk in a club, or let's say it's a place you're not familiar with, but you in an area and there's a lot of different spots and you just out and you're trying to hit different spots and see what's going on. Because I've done that before years ago. I remember just going around town looking for a sports bar with a vibe that I liked. And you walk in, you look around, you check out the menu, look at the food. And if you don't like it, you leave. Right? Yeah. Like, you don't try to get them to change their operation, but like, hey man, you should serve this kind of beer, or you know what I'm saying, these type of chicken wings, or you just leave. You just like, oh, that's what they got. No, okay, I'm good. Oh, that's the type of people in there. I'm good. Like, this idea of trying to change people's opinions and how they do things because you don't like it, instead of just leaving, it's just, I just see it a lot, and it's just weird. Like, it's some type of psychological defect. You can just leave people alone. Whatever happened to leaving people alone? Whatever happened to going somewhere and seeing people you don't like there and you turn around and leave? You know, instead of trying to regulate everything all the time, right? Anyway, let me read this last paragraph. It says, without Section 230, the internet is different. In Canada, Australia, courts have allowed operators of online discussion groups to be punished for things their users have said. That has reduced the amount of user speech online, particularly on what controversial subjects. In non-democratic countries, governments can directly censor the internet, controlling the platforms and users. If the law makes us liable for the speech of others, the biggest platforms will likely get locked down and heavily censored. The next great websites and apps won't even get started because they'll face overwhelming legal risks to host users' speech. So that is the importance of that. Who was that? Is that Sister Vanessa showing up late for duty? Leave all they straight black prides. Sister, you missed half the program, but we appreciate you being here anyway, because I don't see too many sisters in the chat. So yeah, so that was interesting. Now, who else is talking about censoring the internet? Well, is anybody shocked? Bill Gates said this is the number one unsolvable problem facing young people. What is the number one problem that Bill Gates says? Misinformation is the one where I, a little bit, had to punt and say, okay, we've handed this problem to a younger generation. Bill Gates spends a lot of his time and money trying to help solve some of the world's biggest problems. Stop. Come on, man. Bill Gates spends a lot of time trying to figure out new schemes to control the planet and enact his agenda. That's what Bill Gates does. Like, hey, come on, man. You know, I know I'm supposed to read the article, but we got to tell the truth. Like, Bill Gates is not trying to solve any problems. And the problems he's trying to solve, his solutions are not really solutions. Okay? I'm not going to get deep into it because I'm trying to see if I can actually get this one fully monetized. But come on, man. Like, How do people look at Bill Gates and listen to him and see the stuff he does and not at least question? You know, think he's gone a little too far here. Like, no one ever. It's just regular people, right? I guess other rich people, they just look at him and think he's normal. Like, I can't even look at Bill Gates and think he's normal. Like, this something not all there, right? Or is it just me? Like, y'all tell me, am I tripping? But anyway, let me get back to this. Y'all know how I feel about Bill Gates if you've been around me long enough. But I'm trying to be nice tonight. So yeah, misinformation is becoming more common, quote unquote, as technological advances like artificial intelligence chatbots make it easier to generate and spread falsehoods quickly. AI generated misinformation was named as the top global risk of the next 2 years in a World Economic Forum survey. Let's just stop right there. Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum say that misinformation is the #1 problem. If whatever Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum say something, we should pay attention, because that means they are doing something, that they're up to something, right? That's all I'm gonna say, that they're up to something. We, the people, have to be Batman, right? If we have our scanners on and we hear the Joker talking about a plot, we might as well just put on the armor right now and fire up the Batmobile, because you already know. There's no need to wait until the police, you hear the police sirens, because the police are late. That means the Joker's actually getting away with the money. You know what I'm saying? So when we hear the controller, and I guess a WEF would be the Court of Owls, as we carry off this Batman, what's the name, to the fullest extent. So here we go. Let's just what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you, because I don't think I have Bill Gates. Oh no, I got Bill Gates. So I'm gonna show you Bill Gates, because the Bill Gates clip is it's literally only a minute. I'm gonna show you Bill Gates saying what he said, and then I'm gonna show you the WEF saying what he said, right? Because they just doubled up on it. So, all right, here we go. We got short Bill Gates clip. Here we go.
We're always monitoring threats to free speech, and one of them could be former Microsoft CEO and co-founder Bill Gates. Billionaire suggested an artificial intelligence program that would ban harmful speech.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, where are those boundaries that even the U.S. should, have rules? And then if you have rules, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules because you have billions of activity, and, if you catch it a day later, the harm is done?
Okay. This is where I need my Dr. Umar, I beg your pardon me. Right. When this channel really starts generating some funds, and we we get those things that people have, where they have quotes that people have. The I beg your pardon quote from Dr. Umar, it's going to be the first one I load up. Because did y'all hear what he said? He said that, now this is everything, it was only a minute long. Everything he said was crazy. First of all, in the article, he said that AI is being used to cause misinformation. So he says, let's use AI to target the misinformation, to make sure that the misinformation isn't there. How do we know that the AI that you're using to say, to label stuff misinformation, isn't misinformation? Right? I mean, yeah, if you ever use AI, because I've used AI for some of my thumbnails. the number of times that you have to, try to do something that make it remotely kind of like what you're trying to do. I mean, look, that technology is not where they're trying to say it is, right? Maybe for the upper echelon people, maybe for people, maybe for those people, they have it tweaked to a point where it can do what it's supposed to do. But yeah, I doubt it, right? So you're going to use AI to identify AI and say that AI is misinformation based upon the information that's been input into the AI to identify misinformation, which is probably misinformation. Which is why I say, I beg your pardon. Then the part that he snuck in real quick, I don't know if y'all caught. What is Bill Gates known for now? If you're old like me, oh yeah, Bill Gates is Microsoft. If you're younger, oh yeah, Bill Gates, Mr. Vaccine. And what did he say? Yeah, if you're putting out information for people not to take vaccines, well, of course you're gonna say that, because that's how you make your money now, right? We see the flim flam here, right? So I'm just gonna say this. Whenever these people are against something, you better look into it and see what's behind the curtain. Because they have dual motivations. I remember, and he wasn't talking about Bill Gates, he was just talking about in general, Baba Cambone, who's now an ancestor, said. And he said these people, so we'll say that these people are the elites, right? For this conversation. These people, the elites, want to kill you, but they want to make money off your death process. BB48 to Brother Tony. Right? So make of that what you will. Just understand that that quote stands. That hasn't changed. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying how that process works in this discussion. I've talked about it for years now. But never forget that. So, in addition to Bill Gates, going back, I got yet another clip where we're going to listen to the WEF, because you'll see all these people are in alignment, basically saying the same thing in different words. So, let's listen what the WEF had to say.
Delegates gathering in Davos for the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum are faced with a daunting range of global challenges. Worsening conflicts, worsening climate change, a weak global economy, fears over artificial intelligence, attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. In its report published Wednesday, the summit organisers said disinformation is the biggest short-term risk.
The potential impact on elections worldwide over the next 2 years is significant, and that could lead to elected governments' legitimacy being put in question. And this, in turn, could, of course, threaten democratic processes, lead to further social polarization, riots, strikes, or even intrastate violence.
The summit takes place against the backdrop of two major wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Among those due in Davos are the Israeli President Isaac Herzog, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Chinese Premier Li Qiang, and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Alongside political leaders will be hundreds of the world's most powerful chief executives. Critics say their wealth has increased, while billions are getting poorer.
Across the world, people are feeling extraordinary hardship. And at the same time, there's a few sprinting off at the very top into the distance, and some of them will be in Davos. And it is, yes, a space for dialogue, for important discussions, even for holding political and business leaders to account. It's why organizations like Oxfam take part. But it's also not an international democratic space in which, transparent, accountable decisions are being made.
Summit organisers say it's vital to bring together political and business leaders to find solutions to the world's myriad challenges. Henry Ridgwell, VOA News, London.
All right. Shout out to VOA for that. Now, oops. We have Bill Gates. We have the WEF that Klaus Schwab formerly ran. And we have Hillary Clinton. Greetings to Brother Jimmy. Yeah, I saw that RBG. All saying and parroting the same thing. That we got to do something about misinformation. But did you catch what they said? Because that was from earlier this year. That's from January 2024. They said the misinformation could cause elections to be questioned. Now, for someone that has been around for a while and remembers the 2000 election, right? Which was the first election where people was like, well, what's going on? That y'all remember that was a whole mess. And I'm not by any stretch of imagination am I Al Gore fan, but you could make the argument that changed the course of American history. That election definitely should be questioned. Like, we still not sure what happened with that. All right, like people just forget about it, act like it never happened, but we not really sure what happened. You know what I'm saying? In 2020, man, I mean, people still arguing about that. Like, and I've discussed how I experienced that, so I won't rehash that. But I found it interesting that one of the things that they focused on was elections, because one of the things that's taking place in Europe is the rise of right-wing governments and right-wing political officials winning elections and basically going against many of the WEF initiatives that are taking place. So now I'm not saying I'm for these governments or against, because I don't live in these countries where people are voting in Germany and Austria and hey, whatever they got going on in Greece and wherever these places are. I'm not there. Like, whatever they got happening, whatever, y'all deal with it. In fact, I have no plans to ever go to Europe again. So that's not even the point. The point is that saying that just because people will question an election or dispute an election, which is their legal right, happens because of quote unquote misinformation, instead of happening because maybe your country has a history of shenanigans, right? Electoral shenanigans. Like, let's not act like regardless of where you are in the world, like there's this belief that when you're in a quote unquote third world country or some country that they always talk about as bad, which is usually Africa, right? Let's not act like, oh, they have weird stuff happening in their elections there, but it doesn't happen in the West, because that's a lie. It's just a lie. And it's a lie that it is disrespectful to the other peoples of the world, and it's disrespectful to the peoples in those individual countries that know that sometimes elections are kind of shady, right? Like, we've seen corruption on a city level and a state level with elections for a long time. Like, there's a long history of that in America, where they act like it's some type of it's something that doesn't take place. So let's get back to Bill Gates. Actually, I don't even want to talk about Bill Gates anymore. I mean, we said what we need to say about him. So what I wanted to do, wait a minute, is this what I wanted to do? Or did I just mess up? Let's see. Nope, I didn't want to go to this yet. I wanted to go back to this because I found this interesting. How many people remember what we got happening here? Like, we got some weird advertisement that just. Can we read this article or not? All right. Y'all remember this woman? This is Nina Jankowicz, Disinformation Czar. Y'all remember this? This was an initiative of the Biden administration. She was going to be in charge of a government bureaucracy that was underneath Homeland Security. So let's read this real quick. Biden administration disinformation czar Nina Jankowicz is back and still out to quote unquote protect the public from facts. The left is like, I didn't know what this said, but this is funny. Jankowicz, you may recall, got tapped to run the Disinformation Governance Board in 2022 until that Orwellian agency within the Department of Homeland Security rightly shut down in the face of pushback against the de facto censorship operation. It didn't help that her blatant ideological bias spelled out that the DGB would have done. Her public record as a disinformation expert, quote unquote, includes gleefully pushing the since debunked conspiracy theory that Russia got former President Donald Trump elected. What? Huh? I don't even remember that. That was a thing? Okay. Who believed that? Like, people believe that? This demonization of Russia thing is another thing that's been going on too, where when in doubt, blame Russia. It is anyway. All right. Let me get back to where I was. And smearing the Hunter Biden laptop story as disinformation, which we now know. I mean, he's gone to court and everything. We know all that was actual fact. Anyway, but Nina doesn't care that Americans have no interest in her being the arbiter of truth. She has now co-founded the American Sunlight Project, which launched Monday, a nonprofit with the mission to expose the infrastructure and funding behind the disinformation campaign that attempted to undermine American democracy. Now let's stop right here. I should have read the article because now I have questions, and my number one question is, who's funding her nonprofit? Right? Is somebody from the WEF funding her nonprofit? Because that's the logical conclusion. Somebody from a Democratic donor, a set of Democratic donors. Like, who's funding this? And how does a person go from completely failing at a government job to funding a nonprofit doing the same thing? So this just goes to show why we got to keep our eyes open, because it failed on the government sector, but they still setting up the same thing in the private sector. All right, let's go back to the article. It will do nothing of the sort, and the proof is in the launch announcement, which stubbornly and unbelievably doubles down on the Russiagate lie. The nonprofit will also focus on exposing the campaign against disinformation research, when that research amounts almost exclusively to a pack of Brit and American left liberal self-appointed experts eagerly to shut down dissent of any kind. E.g., the disinfo crew in and out of government has done its best to shut down discussion on China's role in creating C-19, and also long-time anti-war advocates who oppose aiding Ukraine against Russia. Tellingly, they also try to police malinformation, which I've never even heard that term before, that info that's true but might lead the unwashed into wrong conclusions. Hold up, let me read that again. Wait, what? Let me go back. My bad. Tellingly, they also try to police malinformation, info that's true but might lead the unwashed to the wrong conclusions. Like, that's some of the most Orwellian stuff I have ever done. What in the world? Expect the American Sunlight Project to be another quote unquote private vehicle to bring government pressure to bear against alternative media of all kinds. These experts will seek to advise New York State on just who should qualify for the local journalism tax subsidies just okayed in Albany, to weigh in on broadcast license renewals, and to push to squelch ad revenues for online outfits that enable wrongdoing. Yo, this is dangerous. Like, this is way bigger than I thought. Heck, you can start the countdown now for the Sunlight Project report to land, warning that Substack, which features hundreds of journalistic efforts across the spectrum, enables too much free speech. It's nice that Jankowicz and company don't have official power of the U.S. government behind them this time, but that does not make them an ounce less of a pack of would-be big brothers. It may make them more dangerous because most people ain't gonna pay attention. All right, let me ask y'all. Has anyone heard of her starting a nonprofit to do the same job that she got fired from before? Y'all put a 1 in the chat if you had heard about this, because I had no idea. I literally, like I said yesterday, I stumbled down a rabbit hole. I saw her. I skimmed through the article. I didn't read it fully, as y'all can tell by my reaction. And now I'm sitting here like, again, it's time for the Dr. Umar meme that I ain't got. I beg your pardon. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything in that article was an I beg your pardon. Like, what in the world is going on? So as we see, these people are going buck wild trying to find new ways to censor stuff and to censor the internet and to censor, keep people from thinking independently, right? Like, this is crazy. Like, so again, add this to the long list of things that I have to keep tabs on. And if y'all don't see me talk about it for a while, just remind me. We're like, hey, DC, whatever happened to that Jankowicz lady? Like, what is she up to? You know what I'm saying? Like, man, this is wild. So, man, that was yeah, I'm glad I stumbled on that article. Now I got another article with her. I think. Wait a minute. Do I? They're trying to get me to buy something. I'm just trying to read the article. What is happening right now? Here you go. Now this is after the article we just read. It says disgraced disinformation czar Nina Jankowicz betrays Marxist agenda as a driver of disinformation studies. Here we go again. I beg your pardon. Like, what is happening right now? What is going on? What? Huh? All right. Let's see if these people are making up lies or they're telling the truth. I actually want them to be lying. I don't want this to be true. This is crazy. Nina, talking about some quote unquote Nina, quote unquote Mary Poppins Jankowicz. Why are y'all calling this woman Mary Poppins? What is happening right now? Okay, obviously these people are right leaning because, all right. Anyway, the would-be director of the now defunct Disinformation Governance Board let the cat out of the bag, exposing disinformation studies as a ploy to promote Marxism. All right, let's see if that is a true statement. The Mary Poppins of disinformation. Would y'all stop calling this woman the Mary Poppins of disinformation, please? What is happening right now? Appeared at a panel hosted by the 19th. Never heard of it. A Marxist critical theory advocacy nonprofit. Are you serious? In America? On May 22nd. The subject of the panel was disinformation, voter registration, and obstacles in democracy. Jankowicz's comments during the panel were riddled with references to radical critical theory, a Marxist theory that sees all of society in terms of an eternal struggle between the marginalized and a group of entrenched privileged oppressors. She also revealed that her approach to disinformation studies is colored by these ideas. In addition to studying kind of the political side of disinformation, I also study gendered and sexualized disinformation. What in the world is sexualized disinformation? Look, hold up. Does anybody have a liberal, before they straight Black Pride, Brother Elijah? Does anybody have a liberal translation to English book? What is she talking about? What is going on? What is happening right now? Why did I go down this rabbit hole? What in the world? What is she? What is gender disinformation? What? Jenkins claimed that people with protected intersectional identities were more likely to be targeted by disinformation campaigns. Man, I'm done. I'm not reading this article, man. I'm not reading this article. Whatever she's talking about, what that gobbledygook was, that was more word salad nonsense, worse than what people accuse Kamala Harris of saying. And Kamala, y'all know she can get up there and say nothing with a lot of words. Man, just reading that made my head. All right, so let's, now that we've shown the in essence the bad guys here. But no, hold up. I got one more clip for y'all. I got one. I might as well use them all. I loaded them all. I mean, who knows? Like, somebody's not gonna like what we say, and you know how it goes. But because I did tell y'all, yeah, I told y'all, or at least I think I did, there was a Senate hearing on this thing that this woman was going to be in charge of. So I just wanted to show the clip real quick of how no one wanted to claim anything, wanted to claim this thing that they were about to put in place. So we're going to load up the clip. I think this is Senator Grassley of Missouri that's doing the questioning.
Going back, yes, I work in the Office of Strategy, Policy, and Plans.
And you work with Robert Silvers there, is that right, the Undersecretary?
I do, sir.
Your name is on a memo with Mr. Silvers dated September 13th, 2021. The subject is organizing DHS efforts to counter disinformation. This is the memo that recommended the establishment of the Disinformation Board. It was turned over to me and to Senator Grassley by a whistleblower. I have to tell you, we've had the darndest time getting any information about this board out of your agency. We've asked and we've asked, members of this committee have asked. We would know virtually nothing had it not been for this whistleblower who turned over a tranche of documents, all of which are now public. So since I have you here and you wrote the memo, let me just ask you a question or two about it. Whose idea was it to establish this board?
Senator, the Department of Homeland Security has engaged in disinformation work pertaining to threats to the homeland and the American people for over a decade. With respect to this internal working group, there were discussions about the need to ensure that there were guardrails in place across the department to protect civil rights and civil liberties and privacy. And as such, there were discussions about creating this internal working group.
Well, yeah, all of that I noticed is in the passive voice. My question is, whose idea was it to set up and you use the word working group, but I noticed that that's not at all what the memo says. It doesn't call it a working group. The directive that Mr. Mayorkas eventually signed off on does not make this board a working group. It had managerial authority, it had directive authority, all of that's in these documents. So let's please not go back to those tired and now disproven talking points. So let me come back to my question. Whose idea was it to establish the board? Was it yours?
Senator, without going into internal deliberations of the Department of Homeland Security, there were a series of discussions among personnel.
Who?
I'm not going to go into the internal deliberations of the department.
Why not? You're under oath.
I am under oath, sir. That said, these are internal deliberations at the department. As you know, sir, the charter was signed by the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Yeah, I only know that, by the way, because of the whistleblower documents. We would not know that otherwise.
We will notice the obvious. She never answers the question. Right? She never answered the question. Who came up with this harebrained scheme You know, so I got it wrong. I thought Senator Grassley was the one. I don't actually know the senator there or the congressperson there. I know he's from Missouri, but I don't know who he is in that clip. But I'm gonna just be honest. I don't understand why why this person and whoever else he was working with. Oh, music. My bad. Why they didn't like take this to the hilt and bring up Mayorkas. He's in charge of Homeland. Ultimately, he's in charge of this project. And ask him, like, what's happening here? Whose idea is it to go directly against the Constitution of the United States in regards to free speech? Who done it, right? Who's behind it? Because I mean, she was going down with the ship on that one. She was not going to answer that question no matter what took place, right? And here's the thing. These types of discussions are had at the highest forms of government, and we don't even know this stuff is going on at all. If you ask the average person about some censorship board that was in place in 2022, they're gonna look at you like you're crazy. Or what most people try to do now, they try to argue down about something that they don't know about. And the fact that this totally is in alignment with the World Economic Forum agenda for 2024 should set off red flags and alarm bells to everyone who's paying attention, which is almost no one, right? So now we got 2 more articles and we'll be done, because I got to show the effects of what can happen if we just fall asleep, as Americans have done lately, and allow this stuff to take place. And this is from the Freedom Center. I'm not familiar with them. It says, think before you post. The UK is now jailing people for social media comments. I don't even think we really got to say nothing else, but let's do it anyway. Western civilization appears to be on the cusp of a new dark age. Why it got to be a dark age? Can't it be a new? Anyway. For any government that arrests and locks up its own citizens for saying, writing, or thinking the quote-unquote wrong opinions or beliefs can no longer say it stands for freedom or human rights. Well, that part I agree with. It says the United Kingdom has ramped up its censorship efforts, now taking the extraordinary step of jailing its own citizens for making quote-unquote hateful social media posts and threatening to extradite citizens of other countries, including the U.S., for so-called hate speech and other speech violations. Now let's stop right here. I can't think of anything more I'm about to tell a lie. Yes, I can. I can think of things more ridiculous. But this is high on the level of things that are ridiculous and insane. Because there are a lot of things that are ridiculous and insane. But the idea that someone in Canada could say something on Facebook and be extradited to England or Germany is sheer madness, right? Just that, I don't even know what else to say. So anyway, they say the crackdown comes in the wake of a mass stabbing and the resulting reactionary riots. I don't know if y'all remember this from, it seemed like this was in the summer. It says on July 27, Axel Ruda Cubana took what has been reported to be a kitchen knife to a Taylor Swift themed dance class in Southport and proceeded to delete 3 young girls, 6, 7, and 9 years old. He also stabbed 8 other children and adults. So, you know anything about England? They have like really strong laws against firearms. Firearms may just be totally illegal. I'm not sure. Be before they straight black brother decimate. And so you, instead of mass shootings over there, you just have mass stabbings. Like when people just want to go buck wild and do things they don't want to do, they just use whatever tools are available. It's not necessarily stopping people from doing stuff. Anyway, following the horrific act, the community was heartbroken and enraged. Information began circulating on social media that Ruta Cubana, who since the attack has turned 18 years old. So he was, okay, this is wild. So this was an underage person that attacked children. And they found out he was an illegal immigrant who came to the UK on a small boat. I can come to the UK on a boat. That turned out not to be true. The suspect was born in Cardiff, Wales, but his parents immigrated from Rwanda. Okay, so he was a British citizen. Okay. I had forgot the details of this case. However, the outrage had already consumed many, kicking off widespread riots. That I do remember. The anger largely focused on expressing anti-immigration sentiment, which basically meant black people. Okay, that's what it meant. But some also turned their attention to buildings housing asylum seekers. Hundreds have been arrested in connection to the riots and protests. The UK government has responded to the riots by targeting people posting on social media in an effort to stop what it alleges to be an incitement to riot. Let's stop right here. Here's the danger. The danger of that is this sets precedent. Now, it may not set legal precedent in America, but you can best believe that if people, the government in America, see that this is allowed to take place without anybody doing anything about it, then it will become a law in America. Now, think about it. This means, I'm just using myself. There are things that there's things I said that got me banned from Twitter back in when Sandra Bland was found deleted after being in the custody of the police. In this scenario, I could have been arrested because they deleted my account on Twitter. So that, you know what I'm saying? So in this scenario, that means I could have been arrested. And they could have, I guess they could have claimed that I was whatever. I mean, it doesn't even matter. They can just make up stuff, whatever they want to make up. And I could have been locked up for tweeting, right? Think about how dangerous that is, because they're always going to start with the most extreme thing and say, this person said XYZ, right? And then it just trickles down into whatever you say that they don't like. That's how it works. So this is extremely dangerous. And even though, again, as I said before, even if it's somebody that I don't like and they're saying something that I don't like, their right to do so is important, because when they take away their rights, my rights are going to be next. That's just how it works. Like there is no thing. See, this is something that most Americans haven't figured out, right? Many things over the years, so many that we'll be here all night, have happened specifically to black people in America, right? For generations. Many of those things that happen specifically to black people are now happening to all Americans. And they haven't figured it out yet. Being completely honest, black people in America were the test. They were the test case. Can we get away with doing this? Oh, we can, sure. But we can get away with doing it to them. Let's see if we can get away with doing it to everybody. And now here we are, and everybody's wondering and looking around and what's going on, right? Like, we know we have documented evidence, thanks to Gary Webb, the reporter, of the government, not anybody else, the CIA, importing drugs and helping to kick off the crack epidemic in America. This is the documented historical fact. We even had former police officers and everything. I've talked about that multiple times. Now, for I seem like the last 10 years now, we've been talking about there's an opioid epidemic in America. Now, I'm not pointing the finger at the government because I don't have any documentation to say that. All I'm saying is history seems to be repeating itself, and it's affecting a different set of people, and other people are looking around and wondering what's going on, and no one has come and asked Black people, hey, what do you think is happening? Because we don't know. Right? like let's just be honest. Now, what's going on like right now at this minute? We have the whole Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath of that. Years ago. Was it been about 15 years ago now? 17? I know, brother, you got ripped off, can't remember the exact date. Now, here we are. And I forgot the hurricane because the hurricanes are coming back to back. But we had the hurricane situation that happened in North Carolina and Tennessee and that whole area, and South Carolina and all that. And there are all types of claims about what the government is or isn't doing. And the stories are starting to sound remarkably similar. Brother said 19 years ago, boy, time flies when you get old. As far as Hurricane Katrina. And no one has stopped to ask Black people, like, hey, man, yeah, so that Hurricane Katrina thing, like, what were they doing? We are having issues, and the government seems to be kind of not helping. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one has asked Black people. But, we, as I have always said, are the canary in the coal mine. And whatever you see happening is something more than likely we've already experienced. Sometimes multiple times over generations. So that's why I'm how can I put it? That's why I'm not against, or I'm against any form of censorship, any limitation of free speech. Because somebody has to be able to tell people, hey, watch out for XYZ. I've seen this before. I lived it. I survived it. Right? And then the most important part is somebody's going to actually figure out the person who said it or did it or set it up. And they got to be able to point it out. Because at the rate we're going right now, I won't be able to tell you, hey, remember when Bill Gates said this? Remember when Hillary Clinton said this? Remember this Lisa Jankowicz lady was doing this? You know what I'm saying? Remember when Homeland Security wouldn't answer the questions before Congress? Before long, I won't be able to do this. I mean, let's be realistic. I'm having enough trouble doing it now because have I passed the monetization? Yes. Am I monetized, and ostensibly will I be able to make a little bit of money from this presentation and from this channel? At the moment, yes. Is it an uphill struggle because different things that we talk about get put into different categories and they aren't fully monetized based upon what I may or may not say? Absolutely. In fact, I'll just be candid with y'all now. the vast majority of the content that I have produced on YouTube as I went through it is not eligible for full monetization. I don't even know why. Like, there's been some things that we just talking about relationship stuff. The panel discussion on relationship wasn't eligible for full monetization. Right? That's in reality, if someone was trying to, you trying to do this in order to make money, or I won't say just to make money, but you're doing this to make money. That is a form of censorship, because it'll change what and how you say things. For me, it's so sweeping that I don't even can't change but so much, because like I said, even stuff that I thought was safe from back in the day, 2-3 years ago, they like, I don't know about that. I'm like, so we can't talk about relationships in the positive light, only in a negative light? Is that what's going on? Because what we did then, 2-3 years ago, with a discussion about relationships with two brothers and two sisters, for whatever reason, can't get full monetization. I don't know. I watched the whole thing. I don't know what was controversial. Maybe somebody in the comment section said so. I don't know. And because it's an old video, I didn't ask, right? But it just goes to show how there can be, even if something isn't extreme censorship, like getting locked up like these people, you already have soft censorship in place, where you have the carrot and the stick effect, where we don't necessarily want you to talk about this, or we don't want you to talk about this in this manner, right? You know what I'm saying? Or we don't want you can talk about it, but don't talk about the people directly, that type of thing. So, I mean, that's all a part of the deal with what we're dealing with. And I'm gonna just be honest, as much as people are on social media, into social media, and much as people's lives revolve around social media, why more people aren't like sounding the alarm on this issue is beyond me, right? Now, I know I probably took the wrong night to talk about it, Friday night or whatever, but hey, like I said, I went down the rabbit hole on really Wednesday night, and I came back up too late Thursday to do a show. So let me get back to this article real quick so I can close this out, because I'm closing this out by 4:00. So let's see. It says the UK government has responded to the rise by targeting people posting on social media. The Crown Prosecution Service shared a video on X warning people about using social media, stating, "Think before you post. Content that incites violence or hatred, it isn't just harmful, it can be illegal. The CPS takes online violence seriously and will prosecute when the legal test is met. Remind those close to you to share responsibly or face the consequences." The warning was shared by the UK government's official account, which also issued the ominous warning, "Think before you post." Numerous arrests have been made of people who did nothing but post their feelings or opinions on social media. For example, a 55-year-old woman was arrested for a social media post she shared that claimed that the suspect was an asylum seeker who came to the UK by boat last year and was on MI6 watch list, which that must be their version of the terrorist watch list. If this is true, she stated, then all hell is about to break loose, quote unquote. Dmitry Stoica was arrested for making a TikTok video in which he pretended that the right-wing rioters were chasing him. Though he claimed the video was a joke, Assistant Chief Constable Michelle Shooter stated, as has been made clear by forces across the country, any criminal actions relating to the disorder, whether they be in person or online, will be dealt with quickly and robustly, whether it is the spreading of, here we go again, misinformation or being involved in disorder. The message is clear. As a service, we are ready to respond and deal with any situation robustly. Several more arrests for written content have been made. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, "This is not a law-free zone." And I think that's clear from the prosecutions and sentencing. So not just the prosecutions, but they've already had trials and sentenced people. Today we're due sentencing for online behavior. Let me read that again. Today we're due sentencing for online behavior. That's a reminder to everyone that whether you're directly involved or whether you're remotely involved, you're culpable and you'll be put before the courts if you have broken the law. Director of Public Prosecutions Stephen Parkinson stated, "We do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification, arrest, and so forth." Adding that although people may not think they are doing anything wrong, they are, and the consequences will be visited upon them. London Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley stated that the arrest won't be confined to British citizens, warning that the government would extradite citizens of other countries. "We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you." I am going to stop right there because I think he summed up the danger right there. We are all in danger with this type of activity of getting the Julian Assange treatment. Right? Julian Assange was, they chased after him and persecuted that man for 15 years for receiving and spreading information. The time to resist was back then. It's almost too late right now, because these type of laws are in place, and these people are talking about they're gonna come from their country to your country to arrest you for expressing yourself about whatever's going on in their country, or whatever other reason that whatever you do online. Again, we're not talking about people who are committing crimes and doing whatever, right? Unseemly activities that I don't even want to mention. I'm not even talking about that. Before they Straight Black Brother Straight Black saw. We're talking about people expressing their opinion and spreading and passing on information. Now, what if you don't know if that the information is incorrect? That happens. Sometimes you're just wrong. But they're talking about arresting people. Like this is insanity. And I just don't know how people just look at this stuff and think to themselves, this is a problem. Right? Now, they said that they're just going to use the police to scour the internet. We already know from Edward Snowden that the US government surveillance is way more sophisticated and way beyond whatever these people are talking about here. So we're all at risk, because more than likely they have the technology on your phone and computer, probably checking everything that you're doing. Right? So, I'm just saying again, I'm going to quote the great Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, who said, "We must resist to exist." In this case, that statement, that quote, isn't limited just to black people. All people, especially at this point, especially in the Western Hemisphere, who value free speech and independent thought, and especially all Americans that value the First Amendment of the Constitution, better wake up and get to organizing some resistance. Because as we see, this thing is coming down the pike, and it's going. If it can happen in Britain, which is America's father, then you know it can happen here. And it's seemingly happened in Britain overnight. So that's really why I wanted to bring this up, because the more I went down the rabbit hole, it was actually way worse than I thought. It was way worse than I thought. I didn't know this Janglewitz lady that got her nonprofit started. I didn't know how many people in Britain. I just knew people were being arrested. I didn't know how many, and I didn't know how much. How much the charges were just flimsy, made-up charges. Like literally, people were arrested for spreading misinformation. They were wrong. They got the wrong information. They got upset and they spread the information. And then you get arrested and prosecuted. And then these people get bold enough to talk about they're gonna come to your country to arrest you for spreading what they say is misinformation. When, for all we know, the government may have put out the misinformation to see who they could hook into it in order to make a case against them. How do we know? Before they did Sister Najee. So I just want to say real quickly, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_ONE, on OTW2 at dcradical1. You can donate via Cash App at $DCRadical1. And you can email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. And by the way, you can also, let's say you catch the replay and you say, oh man, I would like to donate, but I didn't want to send a super chat. You can send a super thanks. A super thanks is the same thing as a super chat, except you just do it. You can do it for a video, or you can do it for the replay of a live stream. And also, we now can be a channel member with a monthly fee, and there are different tiers for that. So I think if you're watching this, I think a join button will go up, and I think you can click on that and get the information there. So, and also I will be back tomorrow for SBL talk, and I'm not 100% sure of what the subject matter will be for that, but just be on the lookout. I think I'll come on at 8 o'clock so I can get out the way, so y'all can go ahead on out to the club and take your lady out to dinner and all that good stuff. So you can listen to me do SBL talk before that. So with that, friends and enemies, because I know the enemies are listening to this one, I say BB for ODA and straight black pride. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $DCRadical1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for ODA and straight black pride.